What is your moon sign? And did you know that right now the only thing I care about is your moon sign? So what's your moon? Did you know that the moon in your chart reveals everything you need to know about your true internal emotional experiences? The moon literally explains why you are the way you are, what you need, what you want, what sustains you. Also, what your relationship was like with your mother, such tea, and what you are like as a mother, more tea. And that's whether or not you even have kids, because the moon shows what fulfills you at the deepest core of your being, how you are nourished, and how you nourish others too. So today, I am coining a new term to help us really unlock the magic of this placement. I am calling it Moonmaxxing. And today, we are sipping this very powerful, very complex, very deep steep. So let's get lunar. Hello, and welcome to AstroloTea with Aliza Kelly. I'm your host and your spiritual friend, Aliza Kelly, and I'm so happy that you're here. Welcome to our Wednesday tea party. If you didn't know by now, let me tell you, if you're new here, for example, that every week I'm serving 2 episodes. On Wednesdays, we have a tea party. This is where we unpack different parts of astrology that actually shape your life, like your moon sign and why it matters, which is exactly what we're talking about today. And then on Monday, I always have your weekly brew where we talk about the astrology of the week ahead. I serve your horoscope, we do tarot, we do journal prompts, we have a theme of the week. This week's theme is Room to Bloom, and we are talking about the gorgeous new moon in Taurus that you better be working with. Also, a reminder, did you know that I am hosting a retreat this summer? Yes, I am. It's actually during Lionsgate Portal Weekend. August 7th, August 8th, August 9th at the iconic Omega Center, Omega Institute in upstate New York, which is about 90 minutes from the city, very, very easy to get to. At the retreat, we're gonna be looking at your birth chart and unpacking themes of destiny and fate and power and purpose as we get ready for one of the most important astrological happenings of the year, which is the solar eclipse in Leo. So head over to tinyurl.com/Aliza-retreat. That's tinyurl.com/Aliza, ALIZA-retreat to register, or at least to learn more about it so you can get ready to go. I can't wait to see you there. It's gonna be amazing. And also, thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for tuning in and for supporting AstroloTea in these very, very early days of our show. If you haven't had a chance to rate, review, and follow AstroloTea, honey, now's your time. Now is the moment. This is it. Not only is this going to help other people discover the show and build our beautiful community, but also I love to know what lands, what hits, how you're feeling, what's vibing. You know, we're in dialogue, okay? So speaking of dialogue, let's talk about your moon sign and why it matters. The tea party begins now, so let's go. Hi, hello friends, and welcome to Le Tea Party. We are gathering today to talk about one of the most important things in astrology. The one, the only, stunning, iconic diva who loves the spotlight. Come on down, you crazy little Luna. Hello, everybody meet the moon. Wait, I'm sorry. I've actually just been informed that the moon will not be making an appearance today. She's in the shadows. She's hiding. She does not want you to look at her, so please respect her privacy at this time. Wait, actually, I'm sorry. My apologies. She will actually let you look at her, but just a little bit, just a sliver, and only for a minute, because then after you see her, she wants to disappear behind some trees until she's finished her glam, and then she'll come out. Yes, that is the diva that we are talking about today. That wild moon that is constantly in motion, constantly changing, constantly going through something. The moon is the fastest moving celestial body we track in astrology. Astronomically, the moon has an orbit of 29-ish days. So the moon cycles through all of the zodiac signs across that duration. So it changes signs about every 2.5 days, and it goes through these 8 distinctive phases as it reflects the light of the sun differently at each moment and, whizzes across the night sky, sometimes is even visible in the daytime, and is just constantly keeping you on your toes. From a symbolic perspective, that is the vibe, right? Broadly. Because the sun, which represents our identity and our ego and our external experiences, is this very steady, very consistent energy. We always know that when it's daytime, it's light outside, even if it's, even if you have some cloud coverage, it doesn't change, right? It doesn't change its shape or its form, unless, of course, it's an eclipse. And that is why eclipses are so crazy, because it is in those rare moments that the sun does go through this wild metamorphosis, which is very rare, right? But that's, every day in the life of the moon. The moon is always shape-shifting, which is a perfect reflection of how our emotions, our feelings about our identity and our ego and the external variables and the events that define our day-to-day life, the sun, are also constantly in motion. Some days we are feeling confident and brave and on our shit, and other days we're feeling like shit. And some days we are feeling really angry and we're raging and we're crashing out. And then the next day we are like, wait, I'm actually really, really sad. And I need to process that as well. So the moon is this really beautiful and important archetype to work with because it's a reminder that our emotions are supposed to be waxing and waning. We are not supposed to hold on to a single emotion for very long. We are supposed to be in a cycle. We are supposed to feel differently. We're supposed to feel the experience as a full spectrum of sensitivities. And it's also healthy for us to cycle through our emotional experiences and take different things away from different moments as we learn more about a situation, as we process and metabolize our emotions, as we interact differently with the external variables in our life. It's all good. It's all normal. It's all part of our own ebb and flow. And obviously, if you know my work in the Constellation Club, the Constellation Club is the virtual community that I founded in 2019. You should join if you haven't yet. I host coven meetings every single new moon and full moon. So every 2 weeks, we're doing another ritual around the moon, which is really beautiful because it's astrology and it's community and it's fun and it's also transformational, but it also reveals how much can change in 2 weeks. And it's fucking crazy because when you actually start tracking the moon and working with the cycles, you become super tuned in to your emotional journey and how that is constantly in flow, and how even though the external circumstances of your life may not have changed in 2 weeks, the way that you are internally processing those situations has gone through such a profound metamorphosis that the external may as well be different. And that's just the moon. That's just, 101 working with the moon. But then we also have the moon in your birth chart, honey, where the moon was in the sky at the exact moment that you emerged. And I like to think of this as almost like a freeze frame of the moon. It's like the moon is moving, doing its thing, baby is born, stop! Moon is in Sagittarius. She's so wild. And then the moon is moving. Baby is born. Stop. She's in Capricorn. She's so serious. And then the moon is moving. Stop. Oh my gosh. It's a full moon. She's in Cancer, whatever. She's so sensitive. And I love this because this is really the way that we take whatever the moon was going through and we do this like red light, green light, 1, 2, 3, stop it. And then we see what the state of mind, the emotional state of mind was at that specific moment of your arrival. And this also reveals your emotional peak. Your moon sign is your emotional climax. It is sort of like the highest octave of your own emotional processing. It really shows you the type of energy that you need to be tapped into to help you reach that state of whatever it is, to be able to metabolize what is going on in your life. It helps you unlock the truest expression of your emotions to really work with the moon in your chart. And that doesn't mean that your status quo moon sign is always going to be like thumbs up, great, best, easiest to deal with, right? But your moon is the good, the bad, the ugly. It's all of it, right? But it is for you. It is your specific way of navigating the peak of your emotions so that you can continue your metabolic process. And this, baby, is why today I am coining the term Moonmaxxing. You may have heard of looks maxing, or maybe you haven't heard of it, in which case you're very lucky. If you haven't heard of it, looks maxing, that is, it is a freaky online term that is used to describe maximizing one's physical attractiveness. And it apparently started in incel communities in the 2010s. And it's about like boys and men being super hyper focused on their appearance. Frankly, I don't like the vibe. I don't know about this looks maxing thing, but that's okay because this is not an episode on looks maxing. This is AstroloTea, an astrology podcast. And today's episode is on the moon in your chart. And we are talking about Moonmaxxing as a way to help us understand reaching the peak of your emotional inner world by exploring the moon through every single sign in the zodiac, okay? I like to say that understanding your moon is like understanding your personal new moon phase because it is your individual reset. Not to mention that every time the moon in the sky syncs up with the moon in your chart, you experience your monthly lunar return, which is basically your moon's birthday party and your personal emotional reset. And what does that feel like? That's moonmaxing, okay? That's getting to the highest level of your emotional needs and fulfillment and sensitivity and the way that you're processing all of it and integrating all of it and just being yourself, accepting yourself for who you are. I am a Pisces moon. You may know that by now, but I have to tell you that it was discovering that I was a Pisces moon that was my gateway into astrology. It was the thing that hooked me and immediately changed my life because I understood and I had words around this emotional experience that I previously was unable to describe. So the last thing now that I want to say about your moon is that because the moon is so close to Earth, and it, literally dictates the tides and creates these critical gravitational pulls that we all know and love and need. The moon has, for thousands of years, been a symbol of various female archetypes of all different kinds. We have lunar phases associated with hunter energy and maiden energy and witchy energy, and most notably for us, mother energy, because the moon is so deeply associated with our mothers, our relationship to our mothers, the relationship to your mother, as well as how your mother actually mothered you and how you mother because of that, whether or not your mothering actually even involves you having children. You are still mother whether or not you have kids. You know what I mean? And I, as your friendly astrologer, can look at your birth chart and immediately clock the relationship with your mom just based on your moon sign, which is T. I know how you perceived your mother. I know how you were nurtured. I know how you weren't nurtured. And I know how you show up as mother in your own life because of that. Your moon reveals not just who your mom was, but also how you are integrating and processing the generational cycles, which ones you're breaking, which ones you aren't breaking, and whether or not you have human children, how you are nurturing others by way of what you received. It's such tea. Ultimately, the moon is a huge reveal of what your internal experience is and needs to be. Ultimately, even when the moon is playing coy, it still needs you to pay attention to her. It still needs you to understand what she's going through, what she's doing, what she needs, and how she feels the most held and seen and loved and beloved. So obviously, moon compatibility in romantic relationships, also super important. I love to see someone's moon held by another person's chart. But even more important than other people taking care of your moon is you taking care of your moon. And that's Moonmaxxing, baby. Yes, that's what we're talking about. Now, because the moon is so profoundly important, I'm thinking that if you want, s'il vous plaît, we can actually make this a 3-part series where we talk about the moon through the zodiac signs, which is what we're doing today. Then we could do another episode on the moon specifically through the houses. And then we could do a 3rd episode on the different phases of the moon and what each lunar phase reveals as it relates to your birth chart, because the moon wasn't just in a sign and a house when you were born, it was also in a phase. So let me know in your comments on Spotify and on YouTube, and also in those gorgeous 5-star Apple reviews, if you would like the series, and I'll start working on this right away. I'll start whipping it up right away for you. When we come back, we are going to get into what your moon sign says about you and how you can moon max that placement to really understand the absolute highest vibration of your emotional expression. And I'm also going to tell you how I would interpret your relationship with your mother based on your moon sign. Such tea. So stay tuned. We will be right back after this quick break. Welcome back, community. Today we are talking about the moon through all of the different signs of the zodiac, what it means for you, why it matters, and I am going to have some very, very piping hot takes on understanding the profound value of this placement from an emotional POV, aka why you are the way you are, your relationship with your mother. And just so you know, I have even more treats and tricks. It's Halloween yet again in store. Of course it is. So listen for your moon sign, but also listen to the moon signs of the most important people in your life. Your partner, your best friend, your crush, your kids, your mother, your boss, your new mother. Because truly the moon explains everything, okay? So let's go. Let's do it. We don't have any time to waste. If your moon is in Aries, it's giving warrior, okay? It's giving Xena, warrior princess. And to any children tuning in, number 1, brush your teeth. Number 2, Google Xena, warrior princess right now, because honey, you are in for a treat, okay? Going to change your life. Everyone should know about Xena, warrior princess, but you, Aries moon, need to know. This is on a need to know basis, okay? The moon in Aries is ruled by Mars, the planet of war. So the moon in Aries is reactive, and it's super fast, and it's quick burning, and it's linked to urgency and instinct and survival, your autonomy, your agency, your selfhood, all so incredibly important. You learned early on that you have to fight. You have to advocate for yourself, that there is no one who is as fast or as brave as you. So those qualities become defining principles of your emotional status quo, T. But because your emotional baseline is always ready to square up, it's hard to know when you're actually safe. Aries moons do not lack feelings. No, there is not a feeling they don't feel. They feel everything incredibly intensely, but the processing for them happens through the action, through the confrontation, through the movement, and yes, sometimes through the fighting. You may have perceived your mother as strong and independent, or maybe she was emotionally inconsistent. Maybe she was somebody who was always dealing with her own fires, fighting her own fights. Maybe she was very reactive, or maybe she was so underreactive that you had to learn to fight on her behalf. Either way, you learned quickly that you need to take care of yourself. You need to get things going, and you can't hesitate, because if you hesitate, bad things happen. But now, as an adult, you are nurturing through action. You are committed deeply to protecting the people that you love. You defend them, you hype them up, you push them to be brave, to advocate for themselves, to go after the things they want. But of course, your growth is learning that not everything is a crisis. So your Moonmaxxing is about staying with the feelings after the initial trigger sets you off, and to see where that emotional experience takes you. You don't always have to respond immediately in order to be safe. You can respond immediately. You're good at responding immediately. But sometimes the most powerful thing that you can do is to remain present through the entire cycle, and not just that moment when you feel like the sirens are going off. If your moon is in Taurus, well, honey, this is lunar Disneyland, okay? This is the happiest place on earth for the moon to be. So don't tell the other signs, because we don't want to make them jealous, but the moon is actually exalted in Taurus, which means there is this gorgeous connection between your feelings and how you take care of yourself. You know what you need, whether that's comfort or consistency or pleasure or safety, soft sheets or a croissant. You know what you need to do to take care of yourself. And you are unapologetic in making sure that you have what you need in order to feel safe and steady. Taurus is ruled by Venus, so your emotional world is deeply connected to the senses. What you can touch, what you can taste, what you can smell, what you can hold on to. You regulate through stability, through routine, through knowing what to expect, and for being able to give that to yourself in the moment you need it. And obviously this traces back to your experiences with your mother, how she cared for you in physical, tangible ways, how she provided for you, how she showed up, how she was able to create a sense of safety in your environment. Maybe she was the essence of someone who was grounded and steady. Or maybe that stability wasn't always there, and then you became your own caretaker. You found refuge in yourself, in the little things that you love that make you feel cozy and nurtured. Either way, your emotional baseline was built around the process and the importance of feeling safe and stable and grounded and anchored. And that is still your priority. So there is a deep loyalty embedded in a Taurus moon, but also, let's be honest, a resistance to change. You may find yourself staying in things longer than you should, in relationships, in patterns, in jobs, even in emotional states, which we know is a big no-no, because you're like, I don't want to change. I don't want to do something unknown. I'd rather sit here in this very uncomfortable chair than try that one out, because I don't know what that chair is about, right? So honey, your Moonmaxxing is about expanding your capacity for flexibility without losing your grounding. You are allowed to outgrow things once you feel safe. You're allowed to find new types of security, but knowing what you need to feel good, a nourishing dinner, a good glass of something, a warm bath, a cozy bed. These are non-negotiables, okay? So when in doubt, make sure you are always setting yourself up for success and a wonderful Sunday night. If your moon is in Gemini, your emotions live in your thoughts, in your ideas, in your connections, in your conversations. Gemini is ruled by Mercury, so your emotional reality is tied to information, honey. The 411, what is being said, what's not being said, what you're trying to understand. And I always say that the worst thing ever for a Gemini moon's personal hell is when someone says, I'll tell you later. Like, what? How could you? How could you do this to them? Because for a Gemini moon, not having all that data when you know there is data, when you know there is something that needs to be said, feeling like something is being withheld, or God forbid that you are being excluded from something. I mean, the deepest torture, right? Because for a Gemini moon, it's about being part of it. It's about being in on it. That is everything for the emotional stability for this placement. And there may have been early experiences with your mother as someone who was either constantly feeding you through information, someone who communicated a lot. Maybe that wasn't even the way that you needed to be fed, but that was the way that she was feeding you. Or maybe there was an absence of communication. There were a lot of silences. There were things that were not being shared. So then you filled them in with your own thoughts and ideas. You collected that information on your own. Either way, you learned how to intellectualize your feelings. And that understanding of whatever the situation is key to your emotional regulation. Your instinct, of course, is always going to be to analyze. And that's really a gift. Your ability to articulate your emotions is so powerful. And in your own life, you nurture, you mother through communication, through conversation, through humor, through insight. You help people process whatever they're going through by putting language to it. And not everyone can do that, but it's also important to remember that not everything can be solved that way. There are some feelings that just need to be experienced as opposed to being explained. Gemini moons live slightly above their own emotional bodies so that they can observe instead of just inhabiting. But when we think about this from a Moonmaxxing POV, it's really about understanding the full magic of this very quick-witted, super smart placement. It is so amazing when a Gemini moon has someone to talk to. A confidant, a friend, a therapist, a sibling, an astrologer. So be sure to set yourself up with lots of different sounding boards to help you process your feelings. And when you do have to process them alone, which can happen from time to time, see if you can convert it into writing, in your journal, into screenplays, into scripts, because, honey, you are meant to translate your emotions, always. So you never need to be afraid to put your feelings into words. Katrin and I are teeing about the Gemini moons in our life. Hold on, Katrin, tell us.
This was a while ago. We were in person with Grace, my wife / Pisces sun, whose mother is a Gemini moon. And I remember Grace said something like, well, sometimes I just don't want to be heard. And Aliza was like, so Pisces sun of you. But I think about that all the time in terms of her and her Gemini moon mother, who needs to know all of the time what's going on and who's, texting her, what doing?
That's so interesting. Oh my God. Pisces sun, daughter, Gemini moon, mother. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Because Gemini moon mommy is constantly going to be like, what doing? Pisces sun, daughter, don't look at me. Yes. I'm evaporating actually right now. It's not, yeah. I'm actually not in this dimension right now. Nothing doing. If your moon is in Cancer, this is the moon in its natural habitat. This is nature documentary moon, right? The moon is the ruler of Cancer. So a Cancer moon is literally the moon's moon. And I always say that I have never ever met a Cancer moon who doesn't love to / need to run naked in the woods from time to time, because this is also part of being a lunar being. You're free, you're wild, you're of nature. And yes, of course, you have those classic Cancerian qualities, your sensitivity and your caretaking and your protection, but don't underestimate how much of a forest creature you are too. Cancer moons are really giving like witches naked bonfire ceremony in the summertime. What a scene. Oh my God. Let's go there right now. Now, speaking of the importance of women, there are few placements that signal, hey, so let's talk about your mom, as much as having a Cancer moon does in a chart, such tea. No doubt your mom or the maternal figure or figures in your life played a huge role in your development, okay? Maybe they were very deeply present, deeply emotional, deeply influential in shaping your inner world and your experiences with your emotions. Or maybe the absence of that mother figure was felt tremendously. So whether it was that you were being very, very nurtured, maybe overly nurtured, overly fed, or somehow starved, deprived, or maybe oddly both of those in tandem at the same time, you with a Cancer moon are acutely aware of how others provide for you on an emotional level and how they don't provide for you, and how you offer those same levels of caretaking to the people that you care about, for better or for worse. Now, this creates a powerful capacity for empathy, but also the tendency to over-identify with other people's needs. You care super deeply, right? You care fiercely and you protect fiercely and you remember everything, right? There's a very strong connection to your past, to your childhood, to your family, to those emotional imprints that shaped you. But sometimes that attachment keeps you tethered to old versions of yourself when really you just need to be at the naked witch bonfire. You know what I mean? So honey, your Moonmaxxing is about fully embodying your capacity to feel and care without apology, right? To be emotionally attuned, to create safety, to hold space, to nurture others, but also to recognize that you do not need to get yourself caught up in a crab shell in order for you to feel like you are getting what you need in terms of emotional fulfillment. You can have it all, right? You can let yourself care and be cared for. If someone is not giving you what you need, you can walk away from it. You don't have to stay there. You can be connected to memory and feelings and intuition and also let things roll off your back. You just need to focus on being as wild and free as possible, recognizing that your strength is in your depth. And when you allow yourself to fully inhabit your freedom, you can actually find the truth behind this very powerful, very sensitive placement. And then you become a source of security, not out of spite, but out of your ability to truly tap in and understand everything. If your moon is in Leo, this is a moon that needs to be seen. But on an emotional level, Leo is ruled by the sun, which loves to shine, but the moon, as we know, can really oscillate in its desire to be visible. Sometimes it wants to be seen on a stage, and other times it just needs to be held. So if you have the moon in Leo, you are no doubt expressive and creative and very aware of your big, big, big emotions. There is definitely a dramatic flair here, but also a deep authenticity in embracing the full spectrum of sensitivities and needs and wants and desires. There may have been an early experience with your mother where attention really played a central role, whether she gave it or withheld it or needed it to herself. Maybe she praised you for all of the amazing artistic things that you did, or maybe you were constantly trying to tap dance in front of her to get her attention, which she was always directing somewhere else. So however this played out, the relationship with your mother is something about visibility, something about being seen, and figuring out how you need to show up in order to be nurtured the fastest. And that became your default setting. So Leo moons are naturally incredibly generous with their love because that is also how they were able to survive. And because of that, this also means that every Leo moon has this deeply and profoundly and like horrifyingly sensitive emotional reaction to rejection. When a Leo moon does not feel like they are being seen or validated or recognized, death. Instantly. So your Moonmaxxing as a Leo moon is about expressing your heart fully and unapologetically, even if that means getting hurt from time to time. It happens to the best of us, okay? You are meant to feel in big and bold and radiant ways. Show us how to feel. Show us what feeling looks like. Your fulfillment comes from your ability to share these emotions creatively and through connections, through being seen, through shining that light on others and helping them be seen. So let yourself be expressive. Let yourself take up space in that night sky, honey. Every Leo moon needs to hear this, okay? You are not too much. You are the light. You are the warmth. And when you channel that into your love, into your art, into your joy, into your celebration, into your courage and bravery in recognizing that not everyone is going to get you, and that's okay too, you don't just feel fulfilled. You really create a theater of fulfillment for everyone to love and appreciate around you.
So I remember when you partnered with a baby company and gave a presentation on moon signs and how that relates to nurture and all that good stuff. I believe you talked about how as a mother, or your advice for mothers was not necessarily to try to tailor their parenting to the moon sign of their child, because that would make them assume that they knew what their child wanted, but rather parent according to your moon sign as a mother. Like, are you thinking about that as you parent Tallulah, or how do you think about her moon sign versus your moon sign when you're parenting her?
Well, you know, Tallulah is a Leo moon. I'm a Pisces moon. But she has her Leo moon in the 12th house. And I am a Leo sun, Pisces moon. So I feel like personally, the universe gave us the best combination to work with, because I see her Leo moon. I see the Leo through my Leo sun. I see her need for validation and recognition and appreciation in those like Leo sensibilities, but also it being her moon, but not just being her moon in the 12th house, like the intensity and the experience of having the biggest, most all-consuming emotional experiences. Granted, she's 2.5. So like, I know that this is also just like par for the course for a 2.5-year-old, but like, I also like very much recognize that when she feels disappointed in something, like that feels like a true tragedy to her. It's like a Greek tragedy. And I feel like with my Pisces moon that is not afraid of emotions, very equipped to help her process it, and also because of my Leo sun, like not invalidate what that experience has been for her. So I do think that maybe now, like deeper into my parenting journey, if you feel like maybe after this episode, everybody is going to know more about the different moon signs. And if you are mothering someone, I do think that tuning in to what their moon sign is very important, but also knowing what you are equipped for and also where your pain points are is going to help you figure out how to show up for them in their lunar placement.
Cool. That makes a lot of sense.
Thank you for the question. If your moon is in Virgo, this is a moon that wants to / needs to make sense of everything. Virgo is ruled by Mercury, but unlike Gemini, the other Mercury-ruled sign, the focus for Virgo is refinement, okay? It's about improvement. It's about organization. It's about clarity. I always say that Virgo energy wants to understand and be understood, like fundamentally at its core. You experience emotions as something you need to work through, as something you need to solve, as something you need to optimize around. So there's often this sense that if you could just like understand the feeling, then it would go away. Like you could fix it and then poof, it would be gone, right? That you could somehow do it better. But my darling, my dear, my lovely Virgo moon, that's just not the point. That's just not the point of our feelings. So we have to think about what those early childhood experiences were, right? Maybe you experienced your mother as someone who was constantly trying to prove her worth and her value and show up by fixing things, solving things, managing things. Or maybe it was like even a more extreme vibration than that. It was about like controlling things or being like hyper vigilant around things. making sure that she was sort of like the gatekeeper, helicopter parenting. Maybe your mother also struggled with anxiety, so much so that you had to learn what was a real threat and what was a perceived threat, and learn how to create some sort of an organizational system in your emotional metabolism so that you weren't just absorbing whatever that stress was. You grew up in some sort of an environment that required you to cultivate this deep analytical ability. And obviously, because of that, you bring that into adulthood. You're always trying to optimize. It's important to remember that emotions are not problems, right? They are supposed to be messy and complicated and weird and illogical. Virgo moons can be very hard on themselves because when they feel like they are staying in a feeling for too long, it becomes something that they are failing at, right? If they don't respond perfectly to a situation, then it's like, well, I blew it. But the thing is, with a Virgo moon, your Moonmaxxing is really understanding that your ability to care in this deep way through precision and through presence, being able to recognize problems, recognize issues in systems, like that's an amazing thing. That's a skill set. If you can resist the urge to turn that against yourself or turn that against other people, then that Virgo moon becomes something that is an incredibly sharp tool where you can notice, you can support, you can find fulfillment by being able to understand your emotions without judging them. You know what I'm saying? When you trust that your instincts exist for a reason and that your intuition is trying to communicate with you, not derail you, then you can understand, oh, this is what needs care. This is what needs adjustment. This is what real emotional stability looks like for me and the people I love. So your gift with this beautiful placement is ultimately discernment. And it's to tap into the compassion as opposed to the criticism. And then, honey, you're golden. Coming up next, we have 6 more moon signs to unpack. What does yours mean for you? Don't worry, we're going to get right back to it after a quick break. Welcome back, my community, my little moonbeams. Today, we are talking about your moon sign, why it matters, and how your relationship with your mother informs this part of your chart. The hottest tea of all! And of course, how to tap into the richest and deepest and most fulfilling wells of what this placement can offer you. And we're calling that Moonmaxxing. So let's get back into it, kicking off with my darling Libra moons. Admin reveal, Katrin, it's your moon sign. You're up next. Mwahahaha. If your moon is in Libra, this cerebral, airy moon just wants connection. It just wants harmony. It just wants things to feel good between people. Ideally, the Libra moon can be involved too, but like only if it's not an inconvenience, right? Libra is ruled by Venus, so your emotional world is shaped through your relationships, how you connect, how you interplay, how you maintain balance with others. You are incredibly attuned to dynamics and to fairness and to partnership and to alignment and to trying to balance everyone else's needs, right? So one of my favorite Libra moon jokes is that if you ever ask a Libra moon how they're feeling, their answer will always be something like, I don't know, how are you feeling? Because before they commit to an emotion, they want to make sure that that is the correct emotion for whatever the current social climate calls for. Katrin, is it true?
Yes, it is very, very true.
And of course, this often traces back to your experiences with, yes, you guessed it, it's mommy. Someone you may have learned that you needed to read very, very carefully. Maybe your mother was someone who showed you how important it is to stay neutral, right? How to balance many needs, and you learn that skill set through observation. Or maybe it was easiest for you to bond with your mom and to get the kind of nourishment you needed when you maintained some level of neutrality, when your needs weren't too extreme in any direction and you could just sort of like, get into whatever the vibe was so that you could find some sense of fulfillment. Either way, you learn that early on, your relationships needed you to adjust and care, but also adjust in order to accommodate whatever the vibes were. So now you feel nurtured through connections, through fairness, through harmony, through relationships, through alignments, and you are amazing at listening, right? You love when people listen to you in return. You are great at validating, and obviously you are going to feel most fulfilled when that's reciprocated. You love to create space for people to feel like they could be themselves, and obviously it's very important for you to get that back. But it's also important that you demand those things in return, right? If you're not getting them, then you need to ask for them. You can't just abide by whatever the situation is if you are not finding yourself fulfilled by that situation. You feel me? You feel me? You feel me? So your moonmaxxing is about leaning fully into your relational intelligence without losing yourself anywhere along the way. You are incredible in partnership, in collaboration, in dialogue. You feel best when you are in these meaningful mutual exchanges, when there's reciprocity, when there's care flowing in both directions. So you need to prioritize relationships that reflect that and make sure that when you're in those vibes, you're not giving up your needs, because the most important relationship of all is the one that you have with yourself. If your moon is in Scorpio, that's tea. It's just tea right from the jump, okay? The moon in Scorpio is very, very deep. It's very intense. It's private. It's all-consuming. It is mysterious. And the thing is that the moon doesn't always feel very comfortable here, because this is not a light and easy emotional space for the moon to be, right? The moon is actually considered in its fall in this placement, which I don't want you to think of this as a curse, unless, of course, you want it to be a curse because you are a moon in Scorpio. So that adds a little gothy, witchy edge to you. And I respect that. But ultimately, it's important to know that the moon in Scorpio is fundamentally about the depth and the truth and the intuition and the powerful complexities that define a life worth living. And there's nothing wrong with that, okay? Your experience with your mother may have, and definitely probably was, complex, right? Maybe it was powerful or guarded or overwhelming or emotionally layered in ways that weren't easy to understand or explain, but you felt them, right? There may have been this very early awareness of emotional intensity or secrecy or transformation. And you learned that feelings are never surface level. And maybe best case scenario, your mom modeled being a strong and complex female archetype for you, right? In being able to hold her complicated emotions, right? And explain them to you. Worst case scenario, you had no idea what was going on and you had to become the Nancy Drew of your own reality. Either way, you understand that feelings are powerful. They can change the world. They could at least change the vibes of the room. And you understand the intensity and the power of feelings because you have these intense and powerful feelings. So naturally, you nurture through this level of depth and also loyalty and honesty. There's nothing shallow or superficial about you, like period. You either are showing up fully or you are not showing up at all. You are someone who can see people very clearly. You actually can see right through them. And for you, you know very early on in a relationship, like who is actually going to be their true self and who is lying to you, right? Who is holding something back. And that means that you're constantly navigating like these very intense, complex, challenging emotions like grief and fear and vulnerability and rage. And those could be a lot to process on like a recurring 24-hour cycle. But when you learn how to do that, right, when you actually become super skilled at your ability to integrate and flow through all of the sensitivities, you become an alchemist. So your moonmaxing is about fully embracing your capacity for this wild emotional range. You are meant to go deep. You are meant to feel intensely. You are meant to transform through your emotions. You're not meant to avoid them or silence them or repress them. Ew. No way. Your power is in embracing the full volume of your magic. So trust that, okay? And when you allow yourself to get there without shutting down or guarding it or feeling like, ooh, I'm too much, you become unstoppable in your emotional resilience and you help other people find their emotional truth too. And yes, obviously it's a little spooky, but that doesn't mean it has to be scary. If your moon is in Sagittarius, where are we going? Where are we off to? What manifesto are we working with right now? Sagittarius is ruled by Jupiter, so the emotional world of a Sagittarius moon expands through experience and perspective and movement and meaning. You need to understand the why behind what you're feeling on like a philosophical level. And you also need the room to explore the full spectrum of your emotional experiences. Your relationship with your mother may have been tied to concepts around the world or philosophy or even distance. Maybe she encouraged a type of independence or exploration, or maybe she didn't. And you had to find the value in that meaning on your own. She could have been very open-minded and well-traveled, and then you inherited that from her, or the inverse, right? She lived what you perceive to be a very small life, so you needed to find this passionate expression of self and your sensitivities in order for you to create the type of fulfillment and nourishment that you needed. So now, obviously, you are nurtured and nourished through this expansive perspective. And that also is your greatest skill set. You remind people of the bigger picture. You bring an optimism and a humor and a possibility and a really perfect level of delulu to every environment. You help people see beyond the moment that they're stuck in. And that's really important. So your moonmaxing with a Sagittarius moon is about leaning in to that need for expansion. You feel best when you are growing, when you're learning, when you're traveling, exploring, questioning, and your emotional fulfillment comes from being in motion and from finding meaning around that motion. You can follow your curiosities. You can let yourself evolve. You don't need to stay in one emotional place in order to prove that you have processed it and felt it and lived it, right? You are actually meant to move through life with your feelings as a guide, as opposed to a limitation. If your moon is in Capricorn, okay, I'm sat. Are you sat? Are you seated? Are you seated properly? This is a Saturn-ruled moon. And Saturn, as you may recall, is the planet of rules and restrictions and very serious things relating to maturation and life and responsibilities. So naturally, the moon in Capricorn experiences emotions that are structured and contained and tied to our responsibilities. And because of this, you probably learned early on that you had to be very strong and disciplined, that you had to hold it all together and be reliable and be the one who manages and not get too caught up in your feelings. But wait, hold on. Emotions aren't about rules and responsibilities. Emotions are, like, by nature, weird and inconsistent and unreliable and illogical. They're feelings. You hear me? They're feelings! So for you, you maybe had to experience some tough things in your childhood, maybe with your mom, that forced you to have to grow up really quickly. Maybe you realized that you needed to take on the role of a parent for whatever reason, and it was best for you to feel really steady in your feelings than wild and out of control, which is, of course, its own type of safety. So even though the moon struggles here a little bit, it's considered to be in its detriment. For you, you nurture and are nurtured through that reliable, consistent, responsible essence, right? Ideally, you would like to build a life for yourself that is solid, that you can feel safe in, and you would like to be able to expand that to the people that you love too. You are no doubt the person that everyone leans on, the one who knows how to get things done, the one who knows how to actually take care and keep things in perspective and not get so swept up in the feelings that you completely lose the plot, except for the times that you do. Because here's the thing, with the moon in Capricorn, sometimes the emotions do take over. Because if you are always trying to box them up and repress them and categorize them, like eventually the emotions are going to be a complete and utter flood. And then you're going to be like, great, now I have to rip out the floor of this home that I architected based on the fact that I needed everything to be like this. So for you, your Moonmaxxing is about fully owning your emotional strength. Yes, you are resilient. Yes, you are capable. Yes, you are grounded. But that doesn't mean that you don't have emotional nuance. That doesn't mean that you don't have sensitivities. That doesn't mean that you shouldn't from time to time get caught up in those feelings. You're allowed to, right? So your strength is your way into your sensitivities. But once you get there, stay a while, or at least stay for an afternoon. Explore how you're feeling. Don't judge it. Just observe. And then after you go through that emotional arc, I promise you are going to be able to figure everything out and get back on track. If your moon is in Aquarius, welcome to Funk It Town. This moon is very different, okay? This moon is a very different vibe than any other moon that we have talked about and any other moon that we will ever talk about again. Aquarius is ruled by Uranus in modern astrology. We have a whole Tea Party Wednesday episode on Uranus, not Uranus, excuse me. But the TLDR is that Uranus is the weirdo planet that lives so far out in our solar system that it can only experience life through a bird's eye view. So naturally, your emotional world is shaped through your perspective, your distance, your awareness, and your removal from the situation. You feel things, yes, very deeply, but it is often through a lens of observation, analysis, understanding that you are able to actually integrate how you are feeling. So your experience with your mother was probably kind of weird, right? Maybe there was some emotional detachment. Maybe there was something kind of unpredictable about it, or maybe it was just kind of like a vibe at home that your friends or your peers couldn't quite relate to. There may have been a sense of you kind of being like a little bit fish out of water. Maybe you and your mom were out of sync. Maybe you needed to detach yourself from the conditions in your home to sort of like levitate above them in order for you to make sense of what was going on and find empathy and compassion for whatever it was. So you're nurtured and then nurture others through this very special and unique type of wisdom. You can take care of people by holding space for them to be exactly as they are. And you have this very unique, very special insight, this different way of seeing the world and also seeing other people's feelings that offers a real comfort. Because for you, like thinking about things as it relates to the bigger picture allows you to take whatever the emotions and the sensory experience is and put it in context, right? Things are never about isolated incidents for you. They're always about how it relates to the larger story that's unfolding. And this helps you metabolize even the most complex emotions. So yes, some may say that this placement can be cold or aloof, but I mean, that's kind of the point. because the Aquarius moon doesn't want to drown in the feelings. They want to understand them. So ultimately, your moonmaxxing is really leaning into that gift of perspective. You are meant to see things differently. You are meant to be the vessel that contains the feelings without having to get caught up in the water, right? You don't want to have to swim in it. You want to hold it. So your emotional fulfillment comes from creating connection and cultivating connection that respects this type of independence, from feeling nurtured in relationships that allow you to be close, but also be free. So you don't need to force yourself into having other people's types of feelings in order to prove that you care. Your way of caring, your way of feeling, your way of loving is beautiful and very, very distinctive. It's spacious and it's accepting and it's aware, it's wise, it's very powerful. And last but certainly not least, if your moon is in Pisces, you are the deepest feeler. You are the most psychic. You are the most emotional. You are the most, hello? Are you still here? Have you left? Here's the thing you need to know, okay? Pisces is ruled by Neptune. So your emotional world is a strange, mysterious, non-physical plane. It's Atlantis, right? It's expansive, it's intuitive, it's liminal. I don't even know if it's real. I don't even know if it exists. You don't just feel your feelings, you feel everything, right? You feel other people's feelings, you feel the room, you feel the energy, you feel the past, you feel the future, you feel astral vortexes, you feel everything, all of it. Things that don't even exist, you feel. You feel me? So anyone who has a Pisces moon has this placement because even though it is very cuckoo in a lot of ways and very delulu, it also was necessary for your survival. Your relationship with your mother may have been very fluid, very emotional, very enmeshed. Or maybe there was this sort of strange physical distance that the emotional distance had to satisfy, or just, somehow the vibe was really hard to define. Maybe it was deeply loving, but also really confusing or overwhelming or very up and down. There may have been a lack of clear boundaries, which taught you how to absorb rather than differentiate. And now you nurture through compassion, through empathy, through your psychic gifts, through a presence that is so visceral that you actually take the pain away from other people by taking it on for yourself, which, if we're being honest, isn't great. So ultimately, with this placement, it's very important for you to figure out, how do you keep yourself safe while also being so kind and empathetic and tuned in to the sponge mermaid that you are. So honey, your moonmaxxing is about fully embracing the fact that you're psychic, period. That's it. You are meant to feel deeply. You are meant to be connected to your intuition. You are incredibly intuitive. You are locked into everything. You're creative. You're out to lunch sometimes, but that also makes you super special. So know that, honor that, have reverence for it, and then protect your fucking energy, okay? Protect your energy by not shutting down. Protect your energy by not just going from zero to full disassociation. Protect your energy by creating boundaries, so that you don't need to take on everyone else's shit. Okay? When you know that you are magic, stay with that and trust that magical people need special containers for themselves to live in, externally and internally. When you create those special boundary containers for yourself in all of your relationships, in all of your jobs, in all of your ways of moving through the world, then you can just exist as magic without feeling like you are constantly being pulled into spaces that are unsafe for you and you don't want to go. So the best way to nourish yourself is obviously by being a witch. Okay, so tell me, friends, what do you think about today's episode? What resonated? What did you learn? What breakthroughs did you have? Do you want me to do the next part of this series with the moon through the houses and then the moon through the phases? Tell me in the comments, in your 5-star reviews. And then also tell your friends about the show. Tell your friends about AstroloTea because we want them in our community. We love them. There's more than enough for everyone. I'll, of course, be back on Monday with your weekly brew. Obviously, that includes your horoscope. So join me for all episodes every Monday and every Wednesday so that you can get served. You can get served the hottest, freshest tea in town. I'm on Spotify, Apple, YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts. I'll see you there.